Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Those in the UK will know that it is very hot, very humid, and there are not enough fans in the world. So I've literally got a fan there and a fan there and a fan's behind me, and I really am dying for aircon. But apparently they can't deliver on 2 hours' notice, which I think is really out of order, but never mind. So we're here to talk about how to make great video. Oh, there's Linka doing this selfie thing. Isn't that sweet? So we're here to talk about how to do better video with social media and better social media content using your smartphone. Now, we're going to start a little bit before that because what a lot of people have problems with is consistency. It's with showing up, it's with what content to create, it's with showing up on video, it's with the confidence around brand, around background and layout, and what tech to buy. I mean, all the tactical things you could possibly imagine under the sun. That's what people worry about the most, when actually where people should start worrying is why the hell you're creating video content in the first place. So when, and I talk a bit about me as I go, but you don't really want to hear an intro about me first off. You actually want to know about how I can help you. So we'll kind of seed that as we go. But when you're working with people as I do, trying to grow and scale businesses, a lot of the time I don't start with any form of tactical thing at all. I mean, that's the last thing I get to, like what camera to buy, what microphone to use, how to do set up lighting, and how to create content, and how to publish videos, and all that stuff. That is the last thing you do. That's like literally the last hurdle before you click upload and it's there. Where we start is actually with things like branding. That boring marketing thing that people kind of know they've got to do, but they don't really understand how. That stuff, that's where we start. And I'll explain why. So if you look at the data, because obviously we start with data as well, and I'll get into that later also. But if you look at the data, as a business owner, 83, I believe, percent of businesses, and this varies according to region and country and niche and everything, or niche if you're a weird American. It's niche, by the way, just so we're clear on that. So whatever niche you're in, it varies slightly. But on average, 83 to 85% of businesses fail by or before their fifth year. And of those businesses that fail on or by their fifth year, 70 something percent, I can't actually remember off the top of my head, so that's 70% of those actually only got to that point by taking upon themselves personal debt or taking on investment against the name of their business, which they then have to wrap up and cease trading with and have all that lovely fun stuff that goes with doing that, which isn't pleasant. Now, the thing about having personal debt attached to a business that you've been trying to run and then eventually failed is that you still have to pay for that. So out of those 80-ish% of businesses that fail by year 5, and out of the 70% of those that only got to that point by taking on personal debt, again, on average, it still takes about 3 to 7 years beyond that point for those people to pay that debt back, right? And there's a reason why I'm explaining this. So when you look at it like that, the thing that you really need to do is start making revenue early, right? And the thing you really need to do is to be very, very crystal clear about what it is that you're delivering and how you're selling and what you're putting out into the world. And you have to be very clear on what consistent action you're going to apply to that. And all of that needs some kind of fuel to keep you on track and to keep you going. And on those days where you wake up, like today, where it's humid as hell and ridiculously uncomfortable, and you haven't got aircon, even though you drastically want it, and you're just laying in bed thinking, screw this, I just want to lay in bed with my fan. I mean, I know I've got some calls going on, but Yeah, never mind, they can wait. On those days, it's the fuel that will actually get your ass out of bed. And it's that fuel, i.e., your goals, that will drive you to creating content and to doing the thing that you need to do. So we start a lot of the time on the mindset side of things with your goals, right? So your goals aren't, I want to grow a business. I want to be a 6-figure business owner. I want to be a 7-figure retiree. I want to have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's just tactical, fluffy, vanity metrics. The goals is things like myself. I'm married. I've got 2 young children. So Samuel and Emma, they're 3 and 5. So they're very young. I'm 38. So I started family later in life than I thought I ever would. My wife the same. She thought that she would start a family earlier in life than she ended up doing. She's 41 now, and we've got a 3-year-old. So you can imagine how uncomfortable that pregnancy was. And goals for me is about building a business that is sustainable and gives the ability for me to spend time with my children and to give them the life that they want and we believe they deserve. That is a goal to me. It's an incredibly powerful driver, right? And it's much more powerful than, I want to build a 6-figure business because I'd read in a book that I can do that in 12 months if I pay $5,000. Oh, by the way, there's Facebook ads about it. Isn't that great? It's just fluffy crap that you don't really need to dig into. What you just need to do is consistent stuff every single day towards a common goal, right? So we start with goals. So what is it that you really deep down want to achieve? What is the thing or the number of things that are going to keep you consistently sticking your face on video, putting out marketing material, speaking to people, prospecting, selling, delivering, customer service interactions, dealing with support queries, having meetings that everyone loves to have with their accountant, talking about numbers and tax, paying tax, because everyone hates to do that, obviously, but it's a necessity. What are the things that are going to drive you through all of that? For me, it's my family. They are who, well, to be fair, my daughter or my son either jump on me or poke me in the eye to wake me up. So I'm more up in the mornings anyway by that point. But they are the people that get me up in the morning, figuratively or literally. So what's that thing for you? What's the driver that's going to get you up? Second to that, before we even try to hit record, is your values and your beliefs around how you're going to build your business. And the reason why we do that, and this is when we kind of start getting into some of the psychology, is that we need to almost reverse engineer the process by which people buy. Okay. And if you've got pen and paper to hand, I suggest you grab those now, because even though I believe there's a recording for this that's going to go out. I don't know. There is. I think it's nodding. It's good for you to kind of make notes for this. The more you write down, the more you'll retain. And so how people buy as humans is that we buy with emotion, but then we have to anchor that emotional desire to a logical anchor point, right? So we buy with emotion and we have to justify it with some kind of a logical, physical justification. It's how we process decisions as human beings. So if you've ever gone, walked down the high street when we could do that before all this COVID madness, and you see something in the shop window and you just, in the pit of your soul, you just think, I want that. Whether it's a jacket, a pair of shoes, a big screen TV, whatever it is, you just have that emotional want for that thing. That isn't enough for you to go into the shop and buy it. That is the drive that you have. You're just like, I want that thing. Or you have a bit of a pain somewhere that's driving you away from that pain, and you have that emotional desire to get away from something, whether it's an away or towards. We'll get into that later as well. There's still the emotion that's driving it. The logical justification is things like, the person you're buying a services from has X number of years of experience, or has whatever qualifications in something, or has loads of testimonials from people who you recognize or know, or they've been recommended by a friend. Those are logical, tangible things that you can anchor that emotion on. Okay. Or in terms of buying something retail wise, is things like sales, money back guarantees, time to delivery, free delivery. All those are, you want a thing on Amazon, they give free delivery, and you can return it if you don't like it, and you can get it same day if you want to, because I live in London. Happy days. So I can have it in 3 hours. Okay, I don't care if it costs me £10 more than the shop down the road. I can get it in 3 hours. Lovely. So it's a logical justification. So if that's how we buy, the process by which we go through that, so we buy with emotion, justify with logic, and this all relates to creating video content as well. So I'm not just teaching about selling here. When you sell to someone, and when someone buys from you, as in transacts a monetary value, or whether someone buys into you, i.e. they're subscribing, they're downloading a lead magnet, they're following you on Instagram, or whatever it may be, that process is the same. Interestingly, it's also the same process that humans use every single day in relationships and dating. So I actually teach selling by teaching you how to pick up someone in a bar. And I genuinely mean that. Right? So we'll do that later as well. Not literally, because I'm married and I love my wife. So I'm not going to do it literally, and I'm obviously stuck in a room, but I'll tell you figuratively how to do it. So how someone buys, and this is a process, there's 6 steps to this. So pen's ready. Someone needs to know and feel, most importantly, feel that you understand that what the problem is that they're experiencing. Okay, so that's the first step. So what the problem is, i.e. first step is problem. What is the problem that they have? Okay, so when they know and they feel that you get what that problem is, then the next step is number 2, is the pain. So problem, pain. So the pain is that you know what problem it is they're experiencing, and you know and you empathize with and you understand the pain that problem is causing them. Okay, so problem, pain. The next is the possibility. So the possibility is showing them a world or an existence where that problem no longer exists, and therefore the pain has been relieved. So problem, pain, possibility. Principles is the next one. So principles is, how are you going to do that? What is roughly the principles around how that pain relief happens? So problem, pain, possibility, principles. The next one is proof. And I'll give you some examples about this in a minute. So the next one is proof. So what makes you the person who's able to do this for me? What makes you the person who is someone who I should buy this solution from? What makes you worthy of me spending my time, energy, or money? Why? So problem, pain, possibility, proof. And then the last step is process. So the process by which you subscribe, you download the thing, you click buy, you go into the shop and hand over your money. Whatever the process is, which is the next step in the flow. I want to talk about the flow in a second as well. The process is how you kind of get started, right? So if we reverse engineer that, problem, pain, possibility, principles, proof, and the process, not only do you need to know what your goals are in order to actually build a product and content and put video content out into the world before we even get to hitting record on your smartphone. How are you going to create content? What content are you going to put out there that are going to cover those points? So, and I'll teach you the engagement side. So this is what to actually include within content, right? I'll teach you that now by teaching you how to pick up someone in a bar. And I love this analogy because this works so well and everyone gets it. So if you are a single person who doesn't want to be single, and you want to have a relationship, you want to start a family, you're lonely, you work all hours under the sun, whatever your existence is right now, if you want that to change, then the person who picks you up in a bar needs to know what it's like to be single but not want to be single. They need to know the emotional impact that has on you because they feel it too. They need to know what not being single kind of feels like. So the problem, the pain, the possibilities. They need to know that actually that requires going on a couple of dates and getting to know someone, because let's face it, even though you see it on TV, one time meet and then married doesn't overly work very often. Certainly not in my world, because hell no. Problem, pain, possibility, principles. Proof is things like being honest in relationship, putting the time in, putting the effort in, putting the energy in, being a good person, being consistently the person who someone hopes and believes that you are. It's that consistent proof. And the process is you just got to go on a bucket ton of dates and get to know the person, right? So when you're talking to someone, you can have that stuff in mind, and we naturally do that. We don't have to learn it. We kind of know it already because we're humans. But when you actually come to picking up someone in a bar, you can't just go out and say, hi, I'm lonely. I think you're lonely too, because you look single. I'm single too. Because that's just weird. And it doesn't really work. You've got to be a bit more strategic, a bit more tactical about how you do it. So the way in which to do this, and this is how you create content, so again, write this down, and I'll tell you the steps first, and then I'll kind of explain it. So the 6 steps are this. You need to engage, not get engaged. It's not one of those. So engage is number 1. Have a conversation is number 2. Seek permission is number 3. So engage, have a conversation, seek permission, connect emotionally, connect logically, and then ask. 6 steps. So engage, have a conversation, seek permission, connect emotionally, connect logically, ask. Right? So if we put that in context, I'll explain that in the dating scenario because everyone gets it. And then I'll explain that in a business context, especially when creating video. Because video is such a visual platform, it's probably the closest you can get to a physical interaction with someone, or outside of the face-to-face in-person events and local networking, which we can't actually do much of, if at all, at the moment. So you go into a bar, you see someone across the room, and I'm looking at Lenka's face right now, so I'm going to imagine it's you. So you go into a bar, you see someone across the room that takes your interest, and you smile, you get a smile back. You might do a hair flick, which obviously I can't do, but you might do a hair flick thing. You might flutter your eyelashes, purse your lips, nod, whatever, wave if you're a bit like that. It's not Forrest Gump, but you could do. That's your engagement, right? So you're literally just engaging that person. You're making yourself aware and known to them. And then you go up to them and you can say, what's a girl like you doing in a place like this? Or, insert opening line here. What brings you here? Just get off work, did you? Was your father a thief? Did he steal the stars and put you into your eyes? Whatever your cheesy chat line could be. But you've had the engagement, you've got the initial interest, and you start a conversation. Now, at that point, if you just sat down next to them without being invited to do so, and you literally just started continuing that conversation, vast majority of the time, whilst it could work sometimes, vast majority of the time, you'll be told to go away in no uncertain terms, possibly with a little bit of aggression, a few swear words, because that was very presumptuous for you to do so, right? So the seek permission is a really, really, really important step, which most people don't do, but should. And the fact that you don't do it is why you lose the sale and why you lose interest in followers. Because delivering content and giving the hook, we'll talk about the hooks and meat and call to actions later. But when you deliver content and then all of a sudden you go into pitch mode without asking if you can, people switch off, because who likes to be sold to? I mean, hands up, do you like to be sold to? Nope. Shaking heads. There you go. But if you say to someone, you know, what's nice to go like you doing a place like this, may I sit down? Or later on in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can work with me further. By the fact that they've actually continued watching, it's by deeming the proxy of them continuing to watch. They've agreed to listen to that pitch. Don't make it too long, obviously, because don't be a dick. But sorry, can I swear on this? Is that okay? Okay, cool. Don't be pushy, but seeking permission is a really important psychological step. Whether it's passive agreement or physical agreement, you need to seek that permission first as part of the buying process. So you've engaged, you've had a conversation, you sought permission. Now, if the answer in that bar scenario was, no, you can't, our friend's joining me, or I just want to be alone this evening, or whatever, you could say, no worries, might see you again sometime, maybe we can talk then. And in business terms, they go on to the nurturing pile, which is like your email list, or in your CRM, they're like a potential lead, right? So you don't forget about them. If they come around again, or if they express interest or give that engagement, the nod, the wink, the smile, when you see them again, you know, green light, go in, asking you to sit down again, asking you to have a conversation. And it may just not be ready now, but it might be ready then, okay? Now, if the answer is yes, then you sit down. This is where the connecting emotionally and connecting logically happens. So connecting emotionally it's you building that relationship with them, okay? It's when you build emotional connection, it's going back to that problem, pain, possibility thing. You know, people buy with emotion, justify with logic. So it's, in dating terms, it's just being a little bit vulnerable, you know, a little bit honest, a little bit, I don't really have these kind of conversations very often. The dating thing is something I've not done for quite a while. So if I'm rusty, forgive me. It just feels a bit weird. You know, just being honest about it. And I said that to my wife on our first date, and we ended up having about a half-hour conversation about terrible dating experiences, which was just very funny. Hers, oddly enough, were not as bad as mine. Go figure. But it was that emotional connection. You know, she told me a few things about herself, just opened up a little bit, where she's a complete technophobe, as an example. So my emotional connection with her is that she showed me her phone randomly, and she said, well, this is my phone, but when it's playing music, it's the music machine. I was like, but it's a phone. She goes, yeah, it's a phone when it's not playing music. When it's playing music, it's a music machine. And I was like, what other devices do you have that you call different things depending on what you're doing with them? And she's like, you mean like the buttons? It's like, what are the buttons? She goes, the remote control. If the remote control's on the side, it's the remote control. But if they're in my hand, they're the buttons, because there's the buttons that I press. Because my wife is special like that. It's how her mind works. And at that point, I didn't even think about it. I just leant over and patted her on the head and said, let's not talk about that too much. But for her, the fact that she didn't punch me in the face meant that on some level, I appealed to her. Go figure. But emotionally wise, that for us was quite an emotional connection, right? So this is why we connect emotionally. People buy with emotion, justify with logic. That got me, apparently, the patting on the head and not getting punched in the face, got me to a date number 2. I didn't realize this until date number 2, but you know, I'm not complaining because I married the girl. Logical justification, so you're connecting logically, that's things like, what do you do for a living? Where do you live? You know, how long have you done blah? You know, what's your favorite places to go? what was the last book you read? Whatever those questions could be, that is the logical justification. So Dan has a weird sense of humor. He can be a little bit kind of witty and kind of cutely patronizing, but in a nice way, to not make me want to punch him in the face. And he works for private equity businesses scaling their revenues, and he's done it for about 15 years. And at the time, I lived in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire, which is a county in the UK if you're not watching from the UK. And all these things. I work in town in London, so there was lots that we connected logically with. Now, in terms of video content, if we map this whole thing to there, and I hope you've understood all of that, because I think that's the best way I know of how to explain it in a way that everyone gets. In business terms, when you create a video, people tell you, mostly people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, people tell you you need to start a video with a strong hook. You need to deliver the meat of the content with as much value as you can, and then you need to put a call to action at the end. That is in my view, is a very almost commodity way of creating content. There is no emotion in it. It's literally, I've got a problem, here's the solution, here's where I can go to buy help with that solution if I want it, thanks. It's the business version of basically a one-night stand. It's, I've got an itch, you can scratch it for me, thanks very much. That isn't a way of building an emotional connection with an audience, unless all you're interested in is a one-time subscriber and then someone who won't watch or view your content again. The thing that will get people to come back to you is the emotional connection. So the way that I would create content is, and I'll get into the data of this in a second as well, the emotional connection you create with someone is by being authentically you. So it's your values and your beliefs, what you stand for, what you stand against, what you love, what you hate, what you believe in, what you value, all those things mapped with your expertise, i.e. the solutions to problems that you can deliver better than anyone else, and the proof that you can deliver those with. Again, problem, pain, possibility, principles, proof, and process. It's the same thing. So all of that goes into your content. But the way in which you do it, going back to the engage, have a conversation, seek permission, connect emotionally, connect logically, ask, is you have to connect with them first. So the people who talk about this, who talk about the hook, they're right, because you only have about 10 to 15 seconds of a video before someone's interest is gone. So you start a video with, hi, in this video, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to help you to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your revenue generation in your business. If that's something you're interested in. I just made it off the fly, but I'm going to do that right now. And then, but as you're delivering the content, it's not just, here is my 6-step process that I'm going to read off of a sheet in front of me in a very robotic fashion. Step 1 is blah. Step 2 is blah, because that's boring as sin, right? What you would do is that you would seed your personality into the delivery of that content. So I could say something like, when I was scaling a business that was owned by a venture capital firm in London, a problem that we had was that the business was stagnating at 7-figure revenues, and my goal was to grow it to a 9-figure revenue business, and I only had 18 months to do it. So what I did in that situation every single day was remove complexity from that business. And I can talk about how to remove complexity from the business. And I could talk about situations and people involved. So I'm delivering the same content, but I'm not delivering it in a boring, mundane way. I'm delivering it in terms of story and truth and in my own words. And I can tell you exactly how I did that. It'll probably take me like 3 minutes, but it's basically just removing complexity. But I'm not reading off a sheet. I'm telling you how I actually did it. And when you look at the data of video, an important thing to understand here is that most people that view video content, they only actually view sub 60 to 70% of it if you're good. If you're not very good and you're just starting out, you'll be lucky if they view, on average, more than 40% of that content. Even the best YouTube creators out there are doing well if they have an average watch time on their video content of more than 60%. So the reason why I say that people who tell you to do the hook and then the core content and then do a call to action at the end in the last 20 to 30 seconds, the reason why I think those are wrong, and that's bad advice to follow, is that at best, 40% of the people viewing your content, they're never going to watch it. At worst, 60% of people are never going to see it. So if someone connects with you in your story and they learn where you come from, they learn what you do, how you do it, where they can get more information from you, and you see those details in, then it doesn't have to even have a call to action at the end because you've already delivered it in context of the content that you've given them. Does that make sense? Yep. So in my world, sticking to that story that I was just out of account, I could say my role was, I'm thinking this as I go, but I actually had an interview with the chairperson of this business. And I talked about this in a podcast I did earlier this afternoon, in fact. And they said to me, I need you to grow this business from 7 to 9 figures. And you've got 18 months to do it in. You have all the resources you need to do that within reason. And I said, so basically you mean do it on the cheap and don't spend too much money? He said, yes, exactly. I was like, right, okay, typical VC, thanks. But when I went into that business, it was really, really toxic. Like I spent the first 3 months just fighting to sack people because they were just a cancer within that business, and they'd been there far too long. They didn't want to be acquired. They didn't want their roles to change. They just wanted to continue receiving a paycheck for doing nothing. And they literally, in many cases, were doing nothing. So 3 months of that was me just being a hatchet person. But when I got the other side of that, hero's journey style, I guess you could say, from my perspective, I then started to be able to build. And what I explained to them, and this is leading into the techie side, I'm going to share my screen quickly. And if I can, I don't even know if I can. Can I? Is this the right one?
Co-host, so the share screen should work.
Hang on.
Let me know if you're having troubles.
Gotta love Zoom. I know I can't do it because Zoom did an update. Oh, screw it. Okay. I'll have to explain it then in that case. So when you're creating content, maybe Len can do this for me.
Yeah, if you remember something, I can share it.
One sec. Can you bring up that image for me, please? Yes, so when you're talking about doing all this creation, creating content, putting it out into the world, and there you go. So this is how I started to explain it in that business. So if you think about it, when the business, or the position the business was in when I started, was actually about the complexity of 14 people in that bottom right hand side, right? Now, if we think about this is still me delivering video content, by the way. If we think about this for a minute, there were 11 or 12 businesses. Each of those businesses had teams and divisions within them. They had their own products, they had their own back-end systems, delivery systems, support systems, and so on. So it's actually more complex than that. But the lines of communication I had to deal with were 10 to 12 times, let's say, that 14 people matrix that you're seeing there. So it was about over 900 different lines of complexity in communication. So if you want to grow and scale your business, what you actually want to do is do the fewest amount of things possible, right? So actually you want to go in the far top left-hand corner, or as close to that lower number of people and lower number of lines of complexity as you can. Now, the reason why that's interesting, and they're still talking about video here, is that the more complex you make things, the more lines of communication you put in place. Lines of communication is the same as talking to people. It's the same with complexity of systems. It's the same as outsourcing. It's the same as teams. It's the same as things that you need to do on a daily basis. All that stuff is the same basis as you're looking at right here. So if you're creating video content, let's say, and you don't really know what you're doing, and you've got a 4-camera setup, 12 lights, 3 microphones, double recordings, mono and stereo, a green screen thing going on, noise cancellation because it's bloody hot like it is today, and you've got 2 fans going on. If you've got all that happening, the lines of communication is actually really complicated to manage. The human brain actually starts being ineffective and inefficient when you get above normally 10 to 15 lines. So between 5 to 6 people involved in a situation, 5 to 6 things, is about the limit that a single human can deal with before you start needing help. So if you're doing video content and you don't really know what you're doing, then actually you literally need a camera, i.e. your smartphone, a microphone, so your audio is not crap, and a light. That's it, right? That gives you 3 lines. Now, if you wanted to do multi-streaming, which you could do, you can add a multi-streaming platform in there, right? But that's adding not one more line, that's actually adding 3 more lines because all those things need to work together. So by adding one more thing into that mix, you're not just adding one more line, you're adding 3 more lines. If you then added into that mix an audio processor to make your sound feel better, or a mixer or something, so now you've got 5 things, and it says people here, but they can be things, then you're not just adding one more thing to the 6 that you've already got, you're actually adding 4, because all those things need to talk to each other, right? So in that business, when I was asked to increase revenue, I needed to cut people out of that business. I needed to cut systems out of that business. I needed to cut brands out of that business. I needed to cut products out of that business. I literally needed to slash the lines of complexity militantly to the point where it was the simplest that I could possibly make it without negatively impacting the core foundations of what was being achieved, what they were trying to achieve. So all of that I could actually put into a 5 to 7 minute YouTube video. And that will deliver the same kind of content, but I've done it in a way that you know my background, you know, and you can feel or resonate with how difficult that situation could have been. You know, there was 350 people in the business when I started. There was 180 when I left, and I had to fire them. So let's face it, that is a bit of a soul destroying thing to have to do. There was a lot of uncomfortable conversations. It was not pleasant, but it had to be done, you know, greater good and all that. But when you're looking at complexity here, and in terms of doing your smartphone content, the simplest amount of approach, or simplest approach, sorry, that you can make to this, the better. So now we're going to get into the tactics for a second. So in terms of your phone.
So before
right?
we get to that, could we touch on one question Adam was asking at the point where we were explaining kind of the dating scenario.
Right.
What is the difference between ask permission and seek permission and ask? They seem to be like the point 3 and point 6. They seem to be similar to him.
Okay, so seeking permission and then asking for next step are 2 psychologically different things. So if I say to you, hi, may I sit down next to you, get to know you better? They say, yeah, sure. It's the same as saying, I've got a lead magnet. Would you like to download a copy? And there's an offer in there which you can take me up on if you want to go further. Psychologically speaking, by saying yes, they're actually inviting you to get to know them better, and they're inviting or agreeing to, at some level, a pitch of some kind, right? In the dating scenario, it's sitting down next to me so you can get to know me and maybe go for a date or whatever, depending on what your luck is. But it's that permission that you're seeking to deepen that connection. The ask is, do you want to go for a walk along the river tomorrow? Fancy meeting up for coffee, my place or yours? Whatever the ask is, it's that next step. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's one question in regards to kind of where to put the hook and how to structure a little bit. Basically, you front load the hook, the opposite of TV, which ends with a punchline, or is it the right perspective?
So with the hook is only there to get the initial interest from someone who is about to consume your content. Normally people who don't know you. So if you watch YouTube people, some people do it really badly, some people do it really well. In YouTube, you would start it by saying something like, in this video, where I'm going to explain the 5 ways that you can make better video using just your smartphone, and we're going to do that right now. Don't forget to stick around to the end because I'm going to share with you blah, blah, blah about something else, some other random topic. And then you go straight into the content, right? That hook just tells someone what that video is about and why they should continue watching it. That's all you're doing with the hook. If someone already knows you, then you don't really need the hook as much, but it's mainly there for people who don't know you or to tell people what this content is about in the first place. That's all the hook's there to do. It's just that initial, it's like fishing. You're literally like casting a line saying, here's the bait, and then you reel it in. Dating's the same. Your hook would be the engaging conversation. That's your hook. It's like, hey, I'm sexy. Hello, I like you. That's your hook.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. Any others?
No, we're good for now.
Okay. I lost my flow. What was I talking about for a second?
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were about to go with a bit more into the technical parts of it.
Yes. Right. So, techie stuff. In the simplicity, like literally being simple, she's running off now. The most you need is literally your phone. Where's my phone? Right, so I have a Samsung S8 camera phone, smartphone, right, which is this little puppy right here. That's my children, by the way. Ta-da! So literally this smartphone on the front camera will record in 2.5K. I'll explain that in a second. And the rear camera will record in 4K. Okay. To put into context, when you're talking about resolutions of video, and this is what Tom would have been talking about a lot more depth, but I'll kind of do the best I can. Resolution is the amount of pixels that you have in an image. So it's literally a amount of pixels, the amount of tiny little dots that make up a screen, the amount of pixels you have horizontally and vertically, that is your resolution. So we are watching right now, my video in fact is 1920 wide by 1080 high. So it's 1920, so 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels high. Now, a front video on this phone will do 2560 by 1440. The rear camera will do, remember this right, will do 3840 by 2160. Very, very large file sizes. Most of the time, you don't even need to get anywhere near that close until you are way bigger than you are, right? Now, the reason why people, a lot of the time, they get hung up on getting a great camera and, you know, doing all this fancy stuff and getting a new smartphone and blah, is that they think they need good quality. You don't, because YouTube is the only platform out there that I know of, at least the only social media platform of the large social media platforms, that supports 4K footage, i.e. the 3840 by 2160. That's 4K. Most of the other platforms, Facebook included, only record in what's called 720p, which is 1280 by 720. My 15-year-old webcam could record in that resolution. Every single smartphone this decade that's been made could record in resolutions higher than that. What you actually need is good lighting, not a good camera. Now, and I genuinely mean this, I mean, people get this wrong so often, so much of the time. You do not need an expensive camera to do good video footage. You just don't. Like, flat, period, end of. You don't need to. Your smartphone is more than capable of doing a great video production job on its own. But even if you have the most expensive camera that you can possibly afford and you put crap lighting in front of it, or behind it technically, that expensive camera is going to do no better than your smartphone at all. I mean, I can't actually move my camera because I do have an expensive camera because I do lots of YouTube stuff in 4K. But for the first 3 years of my business, I literally used the predecessor to this phone, which was a Samsung S6, I believe. And I literally had that with a lav mic, which is a little microphone in here, which I'll talk about that in a second. That's all I had for the first 3 years of doing my business. I did Facebook Lives every day, right? Now, as I got a little bit better, I used to put this phone on a stack of books. I literally put a stack of books up on the table in front of me. I put another stack of books kind of rotated 90 degrees on top of that, and I'd put my phone up against it, literally facing upwards, or I'd face it horizontally like that. And that was my tripod. I'd just put the phone there, hit record, and off I go. That was it. I did that for 3 years, right? And this little microphone, I can just get it out. It's got like a 15-foot cable. It's one of these. This is called a lav mic. If you can focus on that a little bit. Not sure it does. So this thing plugs into my phone. This little microphone clips onto my collar there. And that's all I had for 3 years. And I did Facebook lives in Facebook groups. I did LinkedIn video recordings. I've recorded course content, you name it. I recorded it all in either 720p or 1080p resolution, which is basically all you really need, for 3 years before I started upgrading things. As I started upgrading things, the stacks of books on my desk started to get a little bit annoying. So I then got something like this. Now this is a little tripod. It's a tripod by a company called Manfrotto. I've got a couple of them. And this little gadget on the top here, it turns around. This is a holder for my phone. So I put that in there. I do it up. Please hold, caller. Your call is important to me, or I know you're waiting. There. Selfie stick. That's it. I just open it out. I stick it on my desk. I've got another one which is a bit taller if I want to. And that's it. So my upgrade was a £19.99, I think that's what it was at the time, little tripod, and like a £5 clamp thing, which I got on Amazon. That again was it. And this microphone I continued to use until probably till COVID started, when I started doing more YouTube stuff, more live interviews and live streaming. So this thing I've had for 3 years, and it's basically traveled pretty much around the world and the UK with me. You don't need anything more complicated than that. So if we go back to the, you don't have to share it again, but if we go back to the lines of communication thing, my lines of complexity for 3 years was literally that and my phone and a stack of books. If you want to make a stack of books a line, you can do. But then I got a little tripod and that was it. Now I'm probably at the 6 people / systems thing, maybe the 7, but then I have a team. So I don't deal with all of this myself. Parts of my team offload some of those elements for me, which is why I can expand and I can do more complicated stuff. Okay. But right now, for the vast majority of you, you don't need anything near what I've got running right now. I mean, you're looking right now, I've got fans on, I've got noise cancelling going on, I've got a green screen, I've got all sorts of stuff because I'm kind of going more into like a content house, I guess you could say. You know, I'm looking at doing, I just started a YouTube channel, literally a couple of weeks ago. I'm looking at doing about 2 to 3 videos a week, 2 to 3 live streams a week on top of that, all the repurposing, everything we go on that we can add into it. I mean, I'm at least 3 years beyond where you guys are, possibly more because I had a bit more of a kickstart. But where you're at right now, your smartphone is literally all you need to get going. And in answer to one of the questions that I just saw, the lav mic I got here is a Boya BY. Hang on. It's a Boya something. Let me just check quickly. I can tell you.
I have a similar Rode microphone like that, which is fantastic. I had it for years. Works the same as a type of lavalier
Boya is cheaper.
from Rode.
Yeah, so the Rode one is about 60 quid. The Boya one it's something ridiculous like 25 or something stupid like that. It's really,
Yeah, if you go on Amazon and you look for the type of a microphone, there will be lots of suggestions.
I can stick a link in the comments. I do loads of affiliate stuff, by the way. So if you buy it, I get a little bit of kickback, but that's it there. Actually, no, I just sent it to Linker privately. My bad. That's it there. So it's a Boya BYM1, which is the lav mic. And I don't even know how much it is now. I bought it years ago, but it's good. The tripod, you don't even need the kind of tripod I've got. Literally just buy the cheapest tripod that you can find, because if it's just going to sit on your desk and you're not going traveling, which let's face it, most of us aren't at the moment, you don't need anything fancy or robust. You just need something that will sit on your desk and work.
There is a question for a solution about tripod for someone who's doing video outside.
Right. So when you're outside, a lav mic is still good. There's a few things to know about doing video outside. So I'm going to talk about lighting for a sec, and then I'll talk about outside stuff. Okay. So put a pin in that for a second. Lighting is, I'll explain complicated lighting for you for a second, and then actually explain to you why you don't need it. So Lenke, if you could just bring up that image for me quickly. So the lighting that I've got going on right now is this. Okay. Now this is real studio lighting that we've got going on right here. I can tell you now, when you're starting out, you don't need this. And I'll explain why. But right now, this shows you the camera. Right? So camera's right there where it says camera. Obviously, I can't point to it, but you can see it. So your camera's right in front of you, ideally at eye level or slightly above eye level. So my camera right now is probably about 10 degrees higher than my eyes are. The reason for that is that if your cameras are underneath you, you get basically that kind of look on a camera that is a double chin, shadowy, not very attractive look. It basically makes your face look fat. which is why you have it at eye level or slightly above eye level. So that's the camera height, right? So as long as it's eye level or slightly above eye level, pointing down at a slight angle, that gives you the best look and the most flattering look. Now, when you look at key light, the key light is what you have as your main lighting source, okay? Now, this is a lot of the stuff that Tom would have been going through, but I'm going to go through the basics of it. I can't actually show you right now because my camera's fixed on a tripod behind me. But if I'll do a photo of my studio. So you can kind of see what my studio looks like. You can't quite see it very well, but that is actually a big light that I've got shining on me right now. And what you see like here is my camera on top of my screen, okay? So that big light is actually called a light box. So that on Amazon was, I got a pair of them for about 60 or 70 quid. Again, I can put links to those in the comments if you want them as well, but you don't need it because I'm explaining why. But that's a key light. So that's a 45-degree downward angle to where I'm sitting. That gives me this light towards the side of my face. The lighting that I've got going on is what they call in cinematography or videographer world. It's actually a cinematographic look. So I've got light coming from this way. I've got less light coming from this way, which gives the slight shadow on that side of my face. Does that make sense? So the main light's coming from here, a slight shadow from this side. So that's the fill light that you see coming from the other angle. Right? It's like 30% the brightness of that one, which is why you can see a little bit of light coming this way, but not much. It's enough to give the shadow, but it's not too much where it actually drowns the shadow out. You then have what's called a backlight or a hair light. So over my shoulder, I'll tell you a little trick in a second as well, but over my shoulder and behind me, you've got some coloured lights which are pointing up towards the screen behind me, the back wall. Now what those lights are, when we move out of the way a little bit, is those two, if you can see those. I don't know if they actually show up. Yeah, they do. So that's two lights on a little tripod, different colours, pointing up at different angles towards the back. So I use those as fill lights, and that gives me a kind of a virtual perception of distance from the background. So if you look at my image right now, I'm almost sat in front of the background. That's because there's light behind me that's separating me in the foreground from the background. Some people have said to me before, is that a green screen behind you? I'm like, no, it's not. I just showed you it's not actually. It's not at all. What a lot of people do, and I actually don't mind showing you this, just 1 second. So what I've got going on there is I've got a little light behind me on a shelf, right? But that's not where the light that's hitting my shoulder is coming from. Okay, it's a bit of a lighting trick that videographers do. So what actually is showing this is this little light here is at the same color temperature as in the same shade of color as the light behind me. But I've got it slightly out of view, pointing towards my shoulder. And that gives me the perception, the added perception of depth from the background. And this is basically a hair light, right? So you could do all this stuff if you want to, but if you're doing it on a budget, which many of you probably are, if you're just trying out things, you don't actually need all of this at all. I do it in a studio environment because it's a controlled environment. I do a lot of video and I want it to have, and in fact, I need it to have a consistent look. So I create my own lights and exactly the same color temperature, depth, and everything out because I do video all the time. For you, and this is going back to the content outside question, the best lighting source that you can have is daylight. So right behind me, that foam wall you see behind me is actually it's an insulation panel, like literally drywall insulation with some foam, like spray adhesive stuck to the front of it. That is my back panel. But I could just as easily, if I was just starting out, and this is how I did start out, my desk orientation was the other way around. So my desk was against the window over there. Okay. My background had some shelves in front of me. So where I'm looking right now was shelves. But when I was doing video content, I would stack those books up on top of the desk in front of me, and I would do my video creation between the hours, usually between 9 and 11 in the morning, and between about 2 and 4 or 5-ish, depending on the season and what time things start getting dark and everything. Because natural light, if you sit in front of a bright window, that gives you that natural brightness. And where the sun is, according to the day, that gives you that shadowy look. So unless you're doing content all the time and you want to have the consistent look and feel, you don't actually need a controlled environment. You just need window light. If you want to do stuff in the dark, then you just need a very, very simple ring light or a couple of cheap lights, which you can pick up for about, less than 20 quid for a pair. And you just create that look yourself. But in terms of the depth that I've just explained with this little light here, you can create the same kind of look and feel by putting a lamp in the corner of your background and doing your recording in daylight. That's all you need to do. So still, in that lines of complexity diagram we looked at before, you're still just using a phone, a tripod, and a lav mic. That's it. Now, if you're doing recording outside, there's something called lens flare, which is when light hits the lens of a camera. This is something important to know, why you face the light when you're creating video content. When you're facing the light, that's good because the light shines on your face, not on the lens of the camera. If you have your back to the light, which is what I never suggest you do, you end up getting, like that picture I just showed you on my phone, it's a really, really, really dark picture apart from this big square of light. That's called lens flare. If you take a photo of the sun, or you take a photo of just pointing towards the sunlight, you get this flary, blurry mess. That's why you never do video content with your back to the sun. If it's really, really bright, just find some shade and stand in the shade with the background behind you that you want to have. That's all you need to do to get rid of the lens flare and still have a really well lit piece of content. In terms of audio, a lav mic is actually really well designed for both indoor and outdoor use because the microphone's so small and it's got this little kind of like wind thing over the front of it. Again, a lot of people will say you need to get a shotgun mic, which is like something like this or something like this. These are shotgun mics. A lot of YouTubers love these things, and if you're doing lots of vlogging, you probably do need one at some point. But if you're not doing a lot of outdoor work, a lav mic, interestingly, you can do a very, very quick, easy thing with a lav mic where instead of clipping it onto your t-shirt on your collar, just clip it inside. And there's a video I could probably point you in the direction of if I can remember who did it. There's loads of stuff on YouTube about how to correctly use lav mics. There's a guy called Justin Brown who does a YouTube channel called Primal Video, and he explains this quite well. That was the guy who I remember. And he actually shows you, I can tell you how to do it, you can figure it out yourself, but he gets some, it's not duct tape, it's another version of duct tape that doesn't stick to you as aggressively. Gaffer tape, that's what it's called. So he gets some gaffer tape and he creates a little kind of triangle with the microphone inside it sticks it to the inside of his t-shirt with a microphone inside, and he can stand outside in windy weather because the microphone is tucked down there inside a little kind of sheath almost that you've made for yourself. You don't have to worry about wind noise. So you can even do outdoor recording without using a shotgun mic, using exactly the same microphone you use for indoor work. You just create a tiny little triangle or like a little pocket for it to sit in, and it sticks on the inside of your shirt. Done. If you want to level up from that, you can do a wireless lav system, which is literally plugging the lav mic into a wireless transmitter and receiver. I think Rode do one called a Rode Wireless Go. They're like 180, 200 quid. So it's a lot of expense to go through for the fact of not having a cable between you and your phone. But if you want to do that, you can. I wouldn't suggest it at your level because it's just a lot of expense for not very much gain. If you really don't want to be connected to your phone and you want to do the shotgun mic thing, i.e. a microphone connected to a tripod and a camera, and you wanted to do that vibe, then you're talking about leveling up your game even more. But you can do it. I mean, this mic right here is $25, $29, something like that. It's actually really good value, good for the performance it gives. This will compete with probably a Rode mic of $60 to $100 in price. So it does the same thing for a lot less money. And most people don't really tell the difference until you're really leveling up your game even more. But it's a really good budget option. Again, I can share links to that as well. It's a Takstar SGC 598. That's the model number. But all you would do is you'd get a little screw thing that goes into the top of this clamp. You'd screw it onto the top of there, put your phone inside, and that's basically your vlogging setup for outdoor work, if you wanted to. You know, again, it doesn't have to be complicated, but it works. You know, I would still suggest you keep things simple. If you're using a lav mic for indoor, just use a lav mic for outdoor. If you're doing a lot of vlogging and you need a really mobile setup, then a shotgun mic is probably a good approach to use when you need to. But for ease, then like the Rode Wireless Go is probably a good bet too. Because if you need that mobile portability thing, then you know it's an investment that you're going to use every day. That's probably a good investment to make. If it's something you're going to do once a week, you're probably spending money on something you're not going to use very much. So I probably wouldn't suggest it. I'll just grab some links as well for the Rode stuff, just so that helps you. Bear with me a second.
Yeah, that's fine. And
Any
finally,
questions while going?
if you have a tripod recommendations for outdoors, something that would be, you know.
Okay, so this varies. Tripods are a really complicated topic. Now, I use for vlogging, because I'm basically holding it all the time. I use that, which is a Manfrotto. It's literally this thing here. You know, it's tiny. It goes into my bag. I've got a little clamp on the top, which I think I'll probably recommend one of those on Amazon when you go and have a look for it. That's about the most simplistic thing that I have in my bag, and it slots into my bag. You can see how big it is. It's tiny, you know, and I can unscrew this thing as well. If I'm traveling, it goes in my carry-on luggage or something. It's literally those two things. You know, that's it. So when I go traveling at conferences, when I could, I literally take that mic and these two little things. And if I'm going to be doing lots of outdoor work, you know, interviewing people outside and things like that, then I will probably have this with me, which is the Takstar. Actually, it's powered and it's better for my phone. But when conferences start up again, I'm probably going to get one of the Rode Wireless Goes, just purely so I don't have that connection with me, the cable connection. And I can also use it with my more expensive interview camera that I'd also take to events with me, so I can use it for both. So that's really the only reason why I'd take a wireless system with me. Now, let's just get the link to the Tagstar as well, just so you know that.
If I may,
Yeah.
for me, I do use a Gorilla Pod.
Yep. I've got one of those too.
It has kind of bendy legs. So because I do like out and about random places.
I've got the big brother.
Exactly. So it can bend the legs and I can hook it to a branch of a tree if I want to. And it's very flexible. Again, it has the clasp for my phone, and there are different shapes and sizes and strengths and everything suitable for any kind of a phone. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the suggestions I was going to make was if you do lots of like hiking out and about in the woods, if you do stuff like that, then Joby are really good because like I said, you can wrap those around a tree. I actually I did a video with my children just a couple of months ago where they were playing in the paddling pool and just going crazy, and I wanted to record it, me kind of having fun with the kids with just the three of us. So I got my Gorilla Pod and I wrapped it around the arm of a hanging basket we've got in our garden, and my phone literally dangled there upside down on the Gorilla Pod, and it just recorded my children and I just splashing around in the paddling pool. It's actually quite a lot of fun, but it was the only place I could get an elevated view where I could just hook it on there. So if you're doing stuff like that, yeah, cool. If you're walking around literally with the camera like this, then the Jobies can be a bit of a pain because the way in which their legs kind of move, you've got to kind of like move all three legs around and kind of get it at the right angle or straighten them up. Whereas the Manfrotto I've got here, you literally just close the legs down and it's just there, it's done. So it depends on what you do, right? But generally speaking, my dad's a builder, so he kind of instilled to me get the right tool for the job. So you can hammer in a nail with the handle of a screwdriver and it will work eventually, but you probably screw up the screwdriver to do it. But if you're going to do a job and you're going to do a job a lot, make sure you have the right tool for the job. So for me, I do a lot of video in many different situations. So I've got that Joby, I've got the Manfrotto, I've got the bigger tripod behind me as well. So if you have a big camera set up, if you're like me, when I'm interviewing at a conference, this thing here is actually a professional audio recorder, right? So that will actually have I've got so much kit around me. It's actually quite funny.
It always happens when you have a videographer on, the kit will come out.
Oh yeah. So I've got microphones like this, which I use for interviewing. I've got a pair of them. Okay. So when I've got a conference going on, I'll have the big tripod with the audio recorder on top of that. I'll have my camera, which I'm actually talking to you right now. That camera will be on top of that audio recorder, all clamped in, and the cables will either wirelessly or physically connected will go to two of these microphones, and that will be my interview setup for literally interviewing someone on the table or at chairs or whatever at a conference. So that's my big setup. And that's probably half a carry-on of just video and audio gear. The lighting probably goes on top of that. And I've got a bunch of these little lights, or the lights I've got, the colored ones behind me, they are white light as well. So I'll probably take one or both of those as well with me. But for literally traveling around, I've got this tiny little light, this little Jujit, my lav mic, shotgun mic, and the Manfrotto thing. That's all that goes in my bag. And that does me for a week in San Diego or, a long weekend in Vegas or whatever. That's all you really need. Any other questions while I'm going, by the way?
There was one fairly specific about a setup. Michelle says that she does tutorials with the camera facing down and a slight
Mhm.
angle on her hands where
Yep.
she's talking. Do you have any tips for best setup for her?
Yes. So if you're doing tutorials, then it's a slightly different way of creating. So when you do that, you can do it in one of two ways. One way is longer but cheaper, the other way is shorter but more expensive, as is always the case. Um, if you want ease, then ideally you have two cameras, right? If you don't want to buy two cameras, then you've got to split your video creation in two. Now, tutorial videos tend to be exactly like I'm doing right now. This is kind of setup I have when I'm doing YouTube content or live streaming or whatever. This will be my what they call talking head videos, right? So this is microphone, which is either here or it's above my head, whether it's the microphone I'm talking right now. The only reason I'm using this one and not this one is that I've got loads of fans going on and I've got quite heavy noise cancellation stuff going on, which is why my voice sounds a little bit weird every now and again. Because I mean, if I can actually show you, if I turned off the noise cancelling, you hear that?
Yeah.
Turn on noise cancelling, it turns off. So I've got a lot of processing going on in the background because basically it stops me from melting. But when you're doing tutorials, this talking head setup's really easy. The complicated bit comes when you mesh two lots of video content together. Now, when you're doing that, the big tripod I've got behind me, that actually has what's called a tripod head, which allows you to rotate the angle of the mount by anywhere up to 90 degrees. Okay. So imagine, I won't drag it over here, but imagine you've got a clamp like this for holding your second smartphone, and you can get literally any smartphone that does 1080p footage is more than enough to start. It's actually quite funny to me that there's a lot of big brands out there. I mean, literally big brands that do multi-camera interviews and product shoots using a number of, like in some cases, up to 5 old iPhone 8s. I mean, an iPhone 8 you can pick up on eBay for what, 100 quid these days, if not less. And what they do is they get a lot of iPhone 8s, and one person will just stand in kind of almost like a horseshoe, and they'll just run around the room and go, record, 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 record. And they'll just start recording everything. And they'll have an audio recorder, like I've got, just recording the audio. And then what's called in post, which is a videographer term for post editing, they'll take all of that video together. And because all the different video cameras are recording their own low quality audio as well, you've got one high quality audio source and a number of low quality audio sources. And when you go into a video creation, video editing software, I mean, I use something called Final Cut Pro myself. There's Adobe Premiere. There's a free one called DaVinci Resolve, which is one I probably suggest you have a look at if you don't want to spend money on anything more expensive. But literally all I really started with was DaVinci Resolve because it's free. It's free. You don't have to pay for it, and it does a lot of very, very good stuff, which the paid products actually make you pay for. So DaVinci Resolve, very good product for doing editing. When you're importing the video content, what you can do is I can't remember for the life of me how to do it in DaVinci Resolve, but in Final Cut Pro, which is what I use, you select all of the videos and the audio file that you've created for your tutorial videos. So still talking about the question about tutorials, your second video will be recorded top down at a 90-degree angle with a tripod, right? Some tripods have the camera hanging underneath them. Some have the angled attachment thing, however it works. You have the second video in front of you with or without the audio recording separate as well, depends on what you want to do. And then when you import that content in, you select the audio files and the video files, click on sync. And what the system will do is it will check the waveforms, i.e. the audio kind of recording, the actual waveform of the audio between the video sources and the audio source, and it will synchronize them all together. So then in the video editing software, all you've got to do is just slice and dice the video so that, you know, say you wanted to switch to a top-down view, you just slice the headshot at the points where you want to start and stop, move that piece below. So you basically, if you imagine you've got you head and shoulders view, and then underneath on the timeline, you've got the tutorial view, like the top-down view. You slice that piece out of you, move it underneath, and by default, the system will then put the tutorial video, the image, in front. So when you're doing the editing, if that kind of makes sense, you're literally slicing and dicing pieces of the content in and out. And when you render that and you export it, you have the common audio file, and it looks like you're going talking head, overshot, talking head, overshot, talking head, overshot, and so on. And you do all of that in post edit, but you just have to synchronize the clips, and you can do about as many clips as you want. So if I'm doing an interview, for example, I would have a front view, but I could also have two side views if I wanted to, with different cameras, and I could do all of that in post. But I'd have the common audio that would just from the recorder that would layer over all of them. Does that all make sense? Yeah, cool. Any other questions before I keep on? Okay. So we talked about the mindset, how to sell, what kind of content create, how to create content. We talked about some of the tech. Now, the other thing that people often get stuck with is, I'm going to call it shiny object syndrome, but I think everyone suffers that at some point or another. But when you get started with this, there's, I don't know if it's an actual term, but if it's not a term, I'm going to make it up. I'm going to call it comparison paralysis. I don't know if that's a thing. If it's not, it's mine. I'm going to copyright it. Is it a thing?
Yeah.
Damn it. Okay. But comparison paralysis is something that a lot of people do, and it's mainly a confidence thing where you start creating content and then you see, oh, someone else does that. Oh, someone else has got that. Oh, what camera are they using? Their audio sounds a little bit better to mine if I turn the volume all the way up, even though 90% of my audience don't do that. If I put my audio all the way up and be the abnormal person, then it sounds a little bit crisper. What microphone are they using? What lighting are they using? And it's just all this stuff just layers on. All that ends up doing is stops you from creating good content consistently. Hence the paralysis part. And the reason why that is such a destructive thing for you to do with your business is that, and I genuinely mean this, it's that you are yourself killing your social media presence, right? And I'll explain why. Because when you are on social media is driven by algorithms, okay? So an algorithm in social media, and let's face it, you're doing video content for putting on social media in some form or another, unless you're doing course content, which you're going to be selling on social media. So social media is a key important thing. The algorithm that drives who sees your content and in what volumes those people see your content, the algorithm decides how and when that happens, okay? So if you're creating consistent content, but then you stop because you're not quite sure that your audio quality is as good as someone else, or if you stop because you're, I don't know, switching from one video editing platform to another, or if you slow down making 2, 3, 4 recordings a week till you start making one, or whatever it is that you stop doing, all that's going to happen is that that algorithm that you're trying to get on your side is going to look at you and think, well, a couple of months ago you were doing 3 videos a week. Now you're doing 1 video or 2 videos or 8 videos or no videos for a month, and then you're going to start again. You know, 1 minute you're talking about this topic, now you're talking about this topic, now you're talking about that topic. You know, you're doing live streaming and then you're doing pre-recorded, uploaded content, and it's just going to look at you and think, what the hell are you doing? It's not going to know where to place your content, right? So the reason why consistent action is really, really important is that algorithms, they need data with which to give you what you need, i.e. reach, audience, and engagement, right? So you need to talk about similar content. You need to talk to similar people. You need to engage with people on a regular basis. You need to post content on a regular basis, like even to the same day of the week, certainly in terms of YouTube. You know, you need to, if you start doing 3-minute videos 4 times a week, and then you do 1 40-minute video for 3 weeks, and you start doing 8 1-minute videos the week after, it's again going to look at you and thinking, are you a long form content creator? Are you a short form content creator? Are you a live streamer? Where do I put you? So you need to be consistent with that consistency. And that sounds like a weird thing to say, because it's the consistent action with consistent activity that you do consistently. There's a lot of consistency in there. That is the thing that will make the difference between you getting reach and content being seen by your target audience or not. And the way in which algorithms work, and this, again, I don't believe how I have to actually explain this to some people because they still don't get it. You know, it seems so crystal clear to me, is that if you think about it, there are many people who will argue with me till they're blue in the face that social media platforms are there to serve content to people who want the content. And I'm like, no, they're really not. Social media platforms are not social media businesses. They are advertising businesses that are using social media platforms to get people to come to them. But actually, they are ads businesses. They are there built to serve adverts to you and people you bring to the platform. And the more you bring people to the platform and keep people on the platform, the more ads they can serve to those people. So the more you do that, the more people you bring in and the longer you get them to stay, the more money the platform makes. So if you're bringing people to the platform in an inconsistent manner, they're bouncing off. Or if you're posting YouTube links directly into the content you post on LinkedIn, and you're sending people from LinkedIn to YouTube, or you're sending people from Facebook to LinkedIn, the platform that you're directing people away from is going to very quickly pick up on that, and they're very quickly going to basically shut down pretty much your reach on your social media channel on that platform. In LinkedIn, as a prime example, you could say, go check out my video on XYZ. And we're going to talk about social media stuff here, by the way, in case that wasn't obvious. We're going to talk about XYZ, and I tell you in lots of detail how to do whatever it is over on my YouTube channel. Here's the link. I guarantee you, if you put that link directly in the post on LinkedIn, rather than putting it into the comments after you post that video, the one where you put the link directly into the post will get pretty much no views, pretty much no engagement, and it'll be seen by very, very few people. If you put that same video with that same post with no video on it, but you put the link to the YouTube video in the comments, it will get more reach, like for sure. If, however, you take a 30 to 90-second snippet of the YouTube video, almost like a promo video, and I'll tell you about that in a second as well, almost like a promo video, and you post that natively, i.e. literally you upload the MP4 file onto LinkedIn as a video post, and you say, in the video I've just created or uploaded over on YouTube, I tell you how to do XYZ and ABC and blah, blah, blah. So if you want to check that out, check the link in the comments below where you can watch the whole video in its entirety. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe if you get value. That's basically all you have to say on a promo. You might have to watch that back because I can't remember what I just said. But that's what you put in a 30 to 90-second promo video. The fact that you upload native video to LinkedIn and put the link in the comments, I guarantee you that post will get exponentially more views than the text only post, and a crap load more views than the post that's directing straight off to YouTube. So you need to know how to give algorithms what they need in order to give the algorithm a chance to give you what you want. And if we briefly go through, I'm guessing we've got time. If we briefly go through all of the different social media channels, I'll tell you first how not to do it. Do not do all social media channels at the same time, because you will burn out, you'll get frustrated, your consistency will drop, and you'll basically end up putting out crap content that no one's going to engage with. You'll get a headache, you'll think it's not working, you'll blame basically everything apart from yourself. But really, the fact is you overstretched yourself and it's your own fault. In the nicest possible way, I love you, but that's kind of what happens with most people that I talk to. They just get burnt out because they try to do too much too soon. What I normally suggest people do is, if you're not that familiar with social media in general and you're not overly comfortable with it, just start with one platform and that's it. Right? Just get good and consistent with one single platform and stick to it. If you've got a comfort level with social media in general, then add one more in. So just do two, but no more, right? If you do one, pick the one that you're most comfortable with, because that's going to help you be more consistent and you can then expand it over time. If you're comfortable enough to have two, then I strongly suggest you stick to one long form and one short form. So a long form content platform would be something like YouTube. It would be something like LinkedIn Video or LinkedIn Live. It'd be something like blogging. It would be blogging or vlogging, in fact. Pardon. I wolfed down my dinner before I jumped onto here. I literally jumped from a podcast. I had 25 minutes to cook myself a very, very quick omelette, and then I jumped onto here. So if I burp uncontrollably, that's probably why. I'm going to try and cover it up. You can tell this is live, can't you? So long form is video more than 10 minutes long, on average-ish, 8 to 10 minutes and above. That's considered long form content. Long form written content is things like blogging, guest posting, articles, PR, publishing, that kind of stuff. Even writing a book would be long form, right? So one long form content platform. Now, long form is predominantly for sharing value and building trust. And I'll talk about that for a second now as well. Trust is the thing you need more than anything else. Okay? Trust is by far the thing that will drive your business forward more than any other activity you want to do. Because, again, going back to how people buy, they buy with emotion, justify with logic. There's a common thing that people talk about, which is know, like, and trust. People in marketing world learn that all the time. Yes, it's true. Yes, it works. But in my personal view, it is ineffective and inefficient as feck. Because you have to generate content that gets people to know you, and then those people get to then like you over time. And then if they know you, then they like you, then they start to trust you. And when they know, like, and trust you, they buy from you. That's the general theory of it, right? Now, what I say is that, and this is why I actually I'm the CMO of Quicc, which is a captioning business. I'll talk about them later as well. I'm also the founder of my own business, which I've actually called Authority and Status. So the business is actually called Authority and Status. You can look me up on YouTube. It's just search Authority and Status and my name pops up. That's what I call my business, because when you have authority in your market and status within the eyes of your audience, those two things combined automatically make you a trusted expert in that field or in that niche, not niche, because we're not American and we're not weird. So it's niche. not niche, or niche if you're even weirder. But trust, again, you'd have experienced this. When was the last time that you were, in a shop, or someone recommended something to you or whatever, to buy something from someone or some business you've never even heard of before, knew nothing about, and the fact that they were recommended to you, or you saw someone else enjoying an ice cream, you thought, I want one of those because they look like they're really enjoying it. And you go somewhere and you just buy it. You didn't know them before. You didn't like them before. You just trusted that it wasn't shit. So, sorry, it wasn't crap. Bad. Oops. So, know and like can come afterwards. So, after you've eaten that ice cream that everyone else looked like they were really enjoying, after that happened, at that point, well, you know them now and you like it. But the fact that you trusted them first is all you actually needed to make a purchasing decision. Everything else can come after, if it needs to come after at all. Okay? So, trust, really, really important. Now, going back to social media, long form content is about sharing value and showing that you're an expert in your field, helping someone with a problem that they're experiencing, and building that trust and earning that trust. When they know and like you, that comes after. Now, short form is not for sharing value nearly as much as it is for creating engagement and building relationships. So the knowing and the liking element of know, like, and trust is far more an engagement mechanism than it is a trust building mechanism. So when someone engages with you on social media, like, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook posts, stories, that kind of stuff, even TikTok these days, whether you're Trump and you want to ban it or not, that's kind of personal choice. Personally, I think if you don't want TikTok to have your data, don't go on TikTok. You don't have to necessarily ban it from the entire country. Just don't download the damn app. But, never mind. That's probably me just being a bit overly complicated. But short form is about building engagement. Engagement leads to people knowing and liking you. You feed the engaged group into your long form content that builds trust. The trust is earned from the sharing of value more than it is the engagement and relationship building. See how they work kind of harmoniously together, right? There's a couple of frowning faces. I'm sure that doesn't make sense, but not if it does. Okay, if it doesn't, I'll explain it a bit more. Just let me know or wave at me or something. So when you've got a long form platform that's building the trust, feeding people into your engagement platform so they can get to know you better, when you've got the engagement platform, the short form, building knowing and liking, feeding them into your long form platform to build trust and therefore to sell to them, those things working together give you an engaged, trusting audience. Now, to understand how these different systems work together, it's really, if we go back to what we're talking about with social media being ads businesses rather than content businesses, when you understand that, actually what you end up doing on IGTV or Instagram itself or Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or Pinterest or whatever, what you do on all those things actually doesn't differ that much from each other. They really don't. Sorry, just had to cough. It doesn't really matter at all between them, because when you understand that they're ads businesses, you can figure out that crap for yourself. It's not complicated. The amount of people who I see who focus on the tactics, they'll buy, an Instagram masterclass from this person over here because they're talking about it in their nice, fancy, Spanish mansion, which actually they just borrowed from a friend for the afternoon to create a video that's then serve an ad to you. It's all fake. But, everyone loves vanity metrics. You're paying $997 for their masterclass to tell you how to use Instagram, because every price obviously has to end in the 7. But you don't need the tactical thing, because when you understand that they're ads businesses, then actually, if you think about it, so they have an ads business, which means that they want to serve ads to people. To serve ads to people, then they need people on the platform and they need people to stay on the platform. So what I've got to do is create content that's engaging, that keeps people on the platform. Right. Okay. So if I create content and then tend to send people away from the platform, that's not going to get them the ad revenue. Therefore, they're not going to show my content to people. Ah, okay. So all you've got to do is keep people on the platform and not send people away from the platform. So logic, yeah, hey, happy days. Logic wins. Now, whether you're talking Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, actually then it just boils down to create content that serves, that engages, that keeps people on the platform. You nurture and communicate with those people on platform and just do that consistently. It's not rocket science. You don't need to pay like 5 different people, 997, 597, 297, 1187, whatever. You don't need to pay all this money to different people to tell you to not create shit content. You just need to not create shit content. It's not actually that hard. The reason why people buy those things is this. It's because they're not sure of what they're doing, or they want or need, subconsciously or not, accountability to do the thing. And that's all you really are buying. You're not buying how to grow on Instagram or how to launch a YouTube channel. You're buying someone to tell you what to do over a 7, 8, 12, whatever many week period on a weekly basis. That's what you're buying. You're not buying the knowledge. You can watch YouTube videos and you can get the knowledge yourself by binge watching it on a Sunday afternoon. It's not complicated. Just search, how do I grow my YouTube channel? Or how do I get subscribers on Instagram? Binge watch 2 hours of videos and it'll tell you. What you're paying for in programs is someone telling you what to do and keeping you accountable. That's the value you're paying for, which is why you'll get exactly the same content whether you're paying 197 or 3097. It's no different. It's just one person will sell you on the consistency and the value and what that can give you than the other person. And I'll let you in on a secret here. When you do your video content, again, keeping all that in mind, because we're getting to business strategy here for a second, people don't buy. So people buy with emotionally justified logic, yes. But people buy the future that they want, that you can show them a route to, more than they buy the tactical path about how to get there. So I'm going to say that again. People buy the future you can tell them, that you can lead them to. They do way, way more than they will buy the tactical route about how they get there. So, I mean, I'll talk about Quicc in a second as well, because I contract for businesses. I do mentoring and cohorts and coaching with startups as well. I do probably too much, but I enjoy it. So it's not to me work. It's actually to me fun. So to me, it's not work. People say, well, how have you got like 3 businesses and you spend all this time mentoring startups and SMEs? I'm like, because I enjoy it. But I mean, you might like going for walks in the woods. I enjoy mentoring people. So call me weird, but that's kind of how I roll. Where's I going with that? Right. Yeah. So when you're creating your content, and as I do within the program that I've got, so my program's all about basically telling you the kind of same stuff that I'm telling you now. It's just in a bit more depth. I called it the Authority and Status Academy because I spent a massive amount of time trying to figure out that name. Obviously, my business is called Authority and Status. I call it Academy or Bootcamp. Who knows? I flipped a coin. I called it Academy because then I can call it joinasa.com. Hey, I haven't actually put anything live on there, which I really need to. But pardon, I told you I was going to burp uncontrollably at some point. I really shouldn't have eaten my food really, really fast. My bad. When someone comes into the academy, they don't learn social media first. They don't learn it second. They don't learn it third, fourth, or fifth. We start with the goals. We start with everything I've been talking to you about now, except we go through it in a lot more depth, obviously. But we go through the whole thing And every week, and this is how I suggest you structure yours as well, every single week you go through how to achieve X, Y, and Z, right? Now, some people say, well, I can't tell them how to do that because they're not going to buy anything from me. They will, because they will always want help to do it. So you have two groups of people, and this is my point where I'm getting at with all this. Two main groups of people. You have the people who are just curious, like literally the curious people over here, like that lot. Those curious people will never, ever buy from you. Well, maybe saying not never, ever. 80% of the time, they won't buy from you. 10% of the time, they might do. 10% of the time, the remaining, they may surprise you at some point in the next 3 to 5 years. But 80% of them won't buy from you. They'll just waste your time. They'll say questions like, do you mind if I pick your brains for a second? Or can I just ask you a quick question? Or how do I do something? Is that okay to ask without actually like paying you anything? Those people are the curious people. You're never going to get money out of them. They're never going to pay your bills. They're just going to waste your time. We've all had them. We all know who they are. We could probably think of them some right now. There's someone right in front of the screen who's smiling right now with glasses. So I'm guessing that you've had this experience. There you go. So those are the curious people, right? They're the other group of people. Those are people we want to focus on. Those are the intentful people. People with levels of intent have a need. They have a desire to have that need solved. They have an itch. You can scratch it for them, as it were. Maybe literally not such a good plan. It depends if you float your boat. But when they are intentful, they've already decided that they have a problem that they've got, and they know that you want to solve that for them. So when that's the case, all you have to do, just like in dating, if they've all decided they want to date with you, they've all decided they like the look of you, all you've got to do is not screw it up. Not say something stupid, not, try and push too quickly, too fast, or too far, too fast, too quickly. I know what I mean. You basically just have to not screw it up. So when someone has a high level of intent, don't then send them on this long drawn out sales kind of qualification process, or don't send them to an application form, or don't send them to, oh, let's book a call in 3 weeks' time. Just send them a fucking buy button and say, there you go, you can sign up now. Done. Because they've already been sold. They just need to know how to give you the money. There's levels of objection handling you can go through. Just like in dating, it's like, I'm not an axe murderer. Here's my ID. Here, you can take a photo of it and send it to your brother so they can make sure that you get home safely, because I'm not weird, right? It's that whole proof trust thing. In terms of business, it's literally things like, if you can't afford to pay for it right now, then I offer a 3-month payment plan. Or if you want testimonials about other people who have gone through the program, here they are, speak to these people. If you're curious about my background, my qualifications, why I'm a good person to help you with this problem, then here, read this, whatever, or let's jump on a call. It's just that objection handling. That's all you've got to do. So your social media and your video content, all it has to do is deliver value to a target audience who are of low levels of intent, or to the people who are curious. And all those actually do is they boost your numbers of subscribers, which makes you look better to the intentful people. So you kind of create content for them because they give you the vanity metrics, but then you focus your efforts and your energies on the intentful people who actually get you money. Lenka was just mentioning about confidence. So she'd like me to touch on confidence quickly. Confidence. Any questions, by the way, on anything we've been talking about here? Feel free to ask them.
One question about scripting. If you script your videos, and if so, how do you read a script while recording?
This is a contentious point. So I'm not quite sure if you can see, but over my shelf over there, I actually have a teleprompter. It cost me like 60 quid about 2 years ago. I've used it 4 times. Because here's the thing. I mean, if what have I got around me? I've got nothing around me. I just bought a Mac Mini from a company called Jigsaw 24, right? So if I say, if I'm holding it right here, I'm looking like I'm looking at the screen. I say Jigsaw 24, 40 High Street Church, Nottingham, NG77JA. I can only put inflections in my voice and read out the phone number, which is 0772 400 888. But it still looks like I'm reading something. You know, even if you try really, really hard and you do a lot of it, it still looks like you are reading from a script. Now, some people that's cool with you if you're doing just content that is tutorial based content of just how to content, that's fine, because people aren't really expecting much more from you, especially if you have an engagement platform with your more human and more kind of person to person interaction. Now, what I do is what I suggest other people do, unless you're doing that tutorial based content, is I bullet point all of my video content. So I just have a bullet point on my pad of everything I want to talk about, and I'll sort it all out in post edit if I'm doing pre-recorded, or I'll just glance down at my notes when I'm doing a live stream. I've actually got no notes for this. I've been kind of freestyling everything today. But when I'm doing pre-recorded content, I'll literally look at my notes and say, right, in this video, we're going to talk about blah, 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 and a blah, 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 and I'm going to talk about whatever. Next point. So I'd click. So I do that. So you see the spike in the waveform when I'm editing. So where there's a click, I know that's where I'm going to transition from one point to another, and I've got to slice something out. So I always click between doing stuff, that kind of thing. So I'll read the first point, and then I'll figure out what the next point is, and I'll talk about that bit for like 30, 90 seconds, 2 minutes or whatever, and I'll click, and I'll next point, I'll do that, blah blah blah, and a blah blah blah, and a blah blah blah, and I do that. So when I'm going in post edit, if I'm doing pre-recorded, then when I'm editing, that's when I do cutscenes. And a real easy trick, and you'll see this on YouTube all the time, when people cut from one scene to another and it kind of looks like it zooms in and zooms out, that's not because they're trying to emphasize a point, that's just they're breaking from one bullet point to the next, and they're just kind of fluffing it over with the transition to be visually appealing. But it's only really to cut between the bullet points that they're delivering. So the answer between scripting, I would suggest bullet point what you want to say for sure. Or if you're doing a presentation or a slide deck or whatever, sometimes it's handy to have a slide deck, if for nothing else or no other reason than to be a prompt for you. Don't make it death by PowerPoint. Literally like 3 to 5 words per slide is fine. And you just flick through the slides, but it's for you, not for them. And if you don't want to do that, even on a live stream, I mean, I would just get a little bit of blue tack with a couple of bullet points on the screen in front of me, and it'll just literally stuck to my monitor, and I'll just read through the points. So you can barely see when I'm doing this. You can't really notice it very much when we're mid-flow. Most people aren't watching that much anyway for them to notice your eyes going up and down. So yeah. Explain the click point. Oh, clicking, you mean this? So when you're looking at the waveform of video, so when you're doing video editing, you'll have what's called a timeline. So your video will be at the top, and then underneath there will be a waveform of all the audio, where it'll be like almost like a encephalogram, whatever they call them. Now, when you click, that waveform spikes. So when you're doing what's called scrubbing footage, i.e. you're going through the footage, slicing and dicing the bits you want to cut out of the video footage, where you see a spike is normally big clicks like that, or claps. So you can do that, whatever it may be. Sorry if I hurt anyone's ears. But that will create a spike, like a big spike on the waveform. So visually, I can just go through footage really, really quickly and say like, right, there's a spike there. Let's get to that point, cut, listen it back, move it along slightly. Yep, cool. And that's literally the way I scrub, like do a first pass of editing video footage. And, I'd send off to a video editor. And sometimes if I'm doing video that a video editor is going to edit for me, I'll do a click, I'll give them a message, and I'll do a click again. So I could read a point. This is again how YouTube people do it, video creation people do it. This is sort of something Tom would have explained. But you're going through it all and you'll be reading a point. I really like that point, but can you edit it in a slightly zoomed out way? Because I think something weird happened behind me. And if you can put an overlay of, blah phrase over the top, that'd be cool. And I'd read the next point with pause in between. So you're basically leaving messages between two spikes for your video editor if you wanted to do stuff like that. Just little kind of tricks of videographer trade. Did we want to kind of touch on to confidence for a bit, or do you think we've covered that already?
I think I would still want a little bit of an advice. If I'm just about starting out, I now have a structure and plan, and I understand what. And then I look into the camera, and I'm like,
yeah, how's everyone?
I'm shy, or I record it and I don't post it. So just touch on how do you get yourself to actually do it.
So I'll be honest here. So if you bear with me for like about another 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you a bit of a history of me, right? So I have not always been this kind of confident, outward going, kind of personable guy. This is me now. Through the best part of my 20s, I was very shy, very closed off, very untrusting. Excuse me, just had to cough again. Now that was because, and I had to go through therapy and all sorts of stuff, I was chronically bullied when I was in school. A story that's not very uncommon around. Most people you wouldn't even imagine would have been bullied were actually bullied worse than I was. But people don't tend to talk about it much. I don't actually care these days because it's just history and it's part of my past that I just accepted and moved on from. But for a lot of people, that stuff that is in your past holds you back from your future. And this is a little bit of mindset kind of jiggery pokery, but when you're thinking about in NLP is one example, like new linguistic programming is what therapists use to help people like me back then. They use the term anchors, right? And what happens is that you tell yourself stories in your subconscious about why you shouldn't do a thing. So you could sit there and be in front of a video camera and say, right, I'm going to do a video on this camera about blah topic to help whatever audience. And you can then sit there and then you won't necessarily be thinking about it, but all those old emotions about being picked on, bullied, isolated, people criticizing you, people talking badly behind your back, feeling all those feelings of fear and insecurity and all that stuff that I used to feel, people could, that kind of those feelings come back up again. And a lot of the time you don't know where they come from, but really those emotions are anchored in you putting yourself out of your comfort zone, or you putting yourself out there publicly, or you doing something that you're not familiar with. Just from school, in my terms, all those kind of crappy emotions would just come back. And when I worked on it with the therapist guy who I worked with, who's a genius, he explained to me, and it's almost it's a weird thing to kind of experience and go through at the time, but he got me to imagine the worst memory I had from school. And I don't suggest you do this yourself, by the way, because I'm no therapist, but he got me to imagine the worst period at school that I could. And it was, actually, I don't mind telling you, it was a time we were all changing our classrooms. We had to go from one block to another. And there's me, like the kind of the dumpy red, ginger haired, red faced, is in the summer, kind of slightly tubby kid, always picked on. And we're walking from one class to another, and probably the biggest bully in the school And he was a complete little shit. Everyone both liked and hated him because he was just, I genuinely think he was like, he had issues, put it that way. I don't think his home life was very nice. I don't know, but in hindsight, there's a lot of things I can remember now which make me think things weren't great for him. But by the by, anyway, so we were transitioning from one part of the school to another, and he was following behind me, and he kept on pushing me. And then he pushed me again, and then he smacked me around my shoulder with his bag. He was being a dick, frankly. And it got to the point after about 5 or 6 times, I turned around and pushed him back. And then the bigger bully that was standing next to him, because I pushed his mate, from the side of me, basically punched me in the side of the head. And I was stood there at the top, and I remember this vividly. At the time when he punched me in the side of the head, and I was dazed, water kind of streaming out of one eye. I wasn't sure if I was crying or not. I had no idea. It's like very all over the place. And I was at the top of the stairs in front of probably about 200 across 2 levels of staircase of the people in my year at school, some of them looking, very empathetic towards me, some of them looking a bit caringly, most of them laughing, finding it hilarious. And there's me thinking, what the hell happened? And the lads had already walked on by this point. They were just walking down the stairs laughing. And I tell you that story because the therapist who I was working with got me to imagine that. And he was almost like hypnotherapy. And he said to me, imagine it in more vivid colors, and then imagine it in even more vivid colors. And I was like, okay. So it's like the image is brighter and brighter and brighter. I was like, okay, cool. So I'm imagining this, reliving the same thing again and again and again. And he said, right, now imagine the lads who were attacking you, imagine them with clown feet and big clown noses and like clown makeup all over their faces. I'm like, what? Okay. So imagine that. And I was like, okay. And it's like, right, now even more stupid, even more ridiculous, even more stupid, even more ridiculous, even brighter and even brighter. And we did this for about an hour. And he said, now think that whole moment again. And I still can't think of that memory anymore without seeing the clown faces and the clown feet and those lads. He goes, now tell me how you feel. And I was like, part of me finds it hilarious, and the other part of me feels sorry for them because they were obviously in a worse, more shitty state than I was. And even to this day, I can remember that memory, and I don't feel bad about it anymore, because what they were doing was far more about them than it was about me, by far. Them being little shits at school, them bullying, them pushing me around, them wanting to avoid confrontation at home, whatever they were trying to avoid, I don't know. I'm never going to know. That's their story, not mine. But that was all about them. It was nothing about me. I just happened to be there at the time. So when we're talking about doing video content or putting yourself out of your comfort zone, doing anything, even speaking on stage, even doing a live summit, standing in front of a networking event, whatever it is, if you think about it, the people who will attack or malign you in whatever way, people who will be dicks towards you, it's far more about them than it is about you. You're never going to know their reasons. Their reasons are their own. But why are you, this is how I look at it, why am I, excuse me 1 second, I have to cough. Why am I going to take their problems onto my shoulders? It's their problems, it's not mine. And I had this conversation with my wife back when, like I said, we met. I actually proposed after 6 months. So when you want it, put a ring on it. Is that song? But I explained to her. She was telling me about some problems she was having at work, and she asked me how I dealt with things. I told her the same sort of story I told you, and she said, "Well, so when I tell you about my problems, does that mean you don't care?" I'm like, "Well, I care, but they're your problems, not mine. If you want help with them, I'll help you with them. But otherwise, I'll listen. And when you're ready to do something about it, then that's on your terms. She's like, what do you mean they're my problems? I said, well, they're your problems. They're not my problems. But I love you and I'm here to help you when you want help. I'm not going to force it on you because that's not my place. She's like, oh, okay. But that sort of set the bar in our relationship. So when she wants help, she asks for it. If she doesn't want help, I'm not going to force it. You know, so similarly, in your content, if someone's going to be a dick towards you, then approach that with the love and empathy that every human deserves. That's how I believe it. If they throw it back in your face, cool, they're not ready for help. If you try and force help on them, they're just going to push it back on you anyway, and they're not going to care, and they're going to be a bit aggressive. So don't force it on them. But that's how I look at it. It's you're creating content to help people, and whether they're the intentful people or the curious people, they will either be ready to hear it or not. If they're ready to hear it, cool. If they're not ready to hear it, then just keep being consistent. At some point in the future, they may be ready for it, at which point you can help them with the love and the empathy and the care that they deserve as another human. But if that time doesn't happen, or if someone else helps them, they still got help. But you don't have to take their problems onto your shoulders. So confidence, to answer Lenska's question, I don't think confidence is the question that you need to consider. It's more doing what you're doing with the belief that you're doing it for the right reasons and ignoring the shit that stops you from doing it, because the stuff that stops you from doing it is more about the people stopping you and dishing out the crap than it is about you. So confidence isn't the thing. It's caring more to help the people who are ready than you care about stopping because the few don't want you to do it. That got deep, didn't it?
Absolutely. I'm just like, this is like, without planning it, I think a perfect kind of closing moment for this talk with a little bit of a thirst for all of us to feel confident and kind of understand really the purpose of why we do what we do, with to help others. And we go through certain hurdles and we face challenges and do things we would usually probably not do, because we really have these values and beliefs and mission and vision that we want to achieve, and we want to help people.
And that's what businesses are for. They are to solve problems and to help. If you want to do something other than that, get a job.